This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia. Listen to my radio show, A Tip from Gilbert. Talk, inspiration, and prayer every Monday from 11 a.m. till noon on Houston's gospel leader, KWWJ. 1360 AM and streaming live on kwwj.org. Listen on the legendary KYOK 1140 AM and streaming live on kyokradio.org. KCOH 1230 AM, The Source on San Geek Radio 95.1 FM 1460 AM and Aliento Radio 101.7 FM and 1540 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then. All right, Houston, you have me, Gilbert Garcia, with another episode of A Tip from Gilbert. Thank you, studio audience. And here we go. So, Houston, there's a lot to cover today. And first of all, I don't know about all of you, but I am fully prepared for my upcoming eclipse. So, like right now, for example, I can't see a thing because I just put my eclipse glasses that my wife got me on Amazon, and I am ready to go. Now, the only problem is the eclipse is not following through, because now when I go outside, all I see are clouds. So there you go. But I'm ready when it happens. So I don't know about you, but let's get ready. Before we begin, I know a lot of you are aware that my sister-in-law has been diagnosed with, of course, cancer. And they came into my house again today, and they're going to be here all week for treatment all week. And they've been doing it for about almost a month now. So we just wanted to say a prayer. It was the same one I did an episode or two ago, a prayer for healing. And, you know, I'm watching this happen, and sometimes you say, Lord, how can you do this to such wonderful people? And sometimes it just almost questions your own faith. But it's interesting for me to see them and how they approach it, her and her husband, because, boy, their faith is not even challenged. They are facing it with incredible grace, courage, and it's just unbelievable. So stay with me. Are you ready? Heavenly Father, I come before you with a heart burdened by illness. You are the great healer, and I place my trust in your loving hands. Grant me strength to endure this trial and courage to face each day. Pour out your healing grace upon my body, mind, and spirit, and may your peace, which surpasses all understanding, fill my heart. In your midst of my weakness, be my strength. I surrender myself to your care, trusting that your love will sustain me. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. That is a wonderful prayer. All right, let's transition. We already have a caller, but before we go to that caller, I have represented my favorite representative in the Texas legislature, and that is Christina Morales. Christina, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me today.
And of course, we have one of your colleagues. There you go. There you go. Thank you all, studio audience. We have Miss Cindy Vada-Leja, and Miss Cindy works for you. And you, Miss, do I say Miss Vada-Leja or just Leja?
Vada-Leja, please.
Okay. You are a counselor at the funeral home?
Family counselor, yes.
Wonderful. I want to hear all about it because, of course, Christine, your family has one of the most amazing funeral homes and really the state of Texas. And we're located here in Houston, and y'all have been around since how long?
We've been around since 1931.
1931?
Yes.
Can you believe it?
I know. My grandparents came to Houston. My grandmother said at that time it was called Cowtown.
Is that right?
Yes. And, her husband, my grandpa, their family opened funeral homes around Texas. So each brother would go and open a funeral home. And my grandfather and my grandmother made the decision together to come to Houston.
Wow. And what an incredible story. Because I've been to your funeral home. First of all, it's wonderful. And y'all handle a very difficult moment for people with such grace and dignity and loving care. I mean, it's unbelievable. Have you been in that location all this time?
You know, we moved in 1936, Grandma says, and we acquired the location where we are now. There's been several remodeling, reopenings. We've remodeled several times. It's an old building, but just recently, on February 14th, we opened our second location. So it was very historical because in 90 years, we had only run out of one location.
Wow.
So now we have two.
Where's the other one?
So the other one is in North Houston, right off of the Hardy Toll Road in Little York.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
And so let me ask, is it family owned?
Yes, it's completely family owned. Our family serves on the board. We're proud to continue to be family owned, and many family members work at the funeral home, including Cindy is like family to us. She's part of, I know you know Judge Vada.
Yes.
This is his sister. Yes.
Okay. Now
Yes.
I know him. I did not know the relationship.
Right.
Yes.
He's
my much older brother.
Well, he's a local icon, right? Because he's been around and he's been great and mentored so many people all these years.
Yes, thank you.
I want to talk a lot about the concept of, funerals are one of those things that you always hate to talk about, but yet when you have to, you have to. And it's always when you have to, you're not ready.
Correct.
You're not ready emotionally, and you're probably not ready financially. I want to talk a lot about that, but we already have two callers. Let's go to the first, Miss Blanca Blanco. Are you there, Miss Blanco?
I sure am.
How are you? It's so great. I'm so thrilled to have you call into the show.
Hey, Blanca.
Hey, hi, Christina.
Hi.
Cindy.
Hi.
I'm so glad that y'all are on the show today. This is so important for people to know.
Well, I think so, because you just don't know. And then when it always, things always seem to happen at the spur of the moment or something, you just don't expect it because we all think we're invincible. And then all of a sudden a family member has an illness or something happens, and then you're dealing with issues right when you don't want to. But yet you've got to. So I really want to talk about it because I want to educate the public on what they can do today to prepare their loved ones for whatever the future may hold. What are the steps someone could do today? So, Ms. Blanca, do you have a question for the group?
Well, I do. This is a topic that nobody wants to talk about. And it's a topic that really everyone should talk about it and get prepared for it, because it's the inevitable. It's going to happen, unfortunately, although we don't want to talk about it. I remember when I was a child, my grandmother wanted to get her pre-arrangements, and I didn't want to talk about it with her because I never wanted that to happen to her. So my question is to both of you, pre-arranging is, a topic, but it's a topic that nobody wants to talk about. However, it's important to talk about it so we can get all of that taken care of before. So what are the steps, Christina and Cindy, to get everything prepared ahead of time so that, when something happens, either suddenly or through an illness, like Gilbert says, that we're prepared for it. And I understand that when you do get prepared, it's even more inexpensive than it is when the death has already occurred. Is that right? Can you help me walk through that?
Yeah, Blanco, stay on the line because I think you're going to have a follow-up. And this is a wonderful launch into the whole thing. Because first of all, what does pre-arranging mean? What does that mean to the people out listening?
Well, pre-arranging means coming in and talking to one of the family counselors there, or us going out and meeting the family where they're more comfortable. And exactly what you said, Gilbert, we want to have this talk when we can. We don't want to do it when we have to, because then your emotions are so high. And so you can't really maybe give everything your loved one would have wanted because you don't know, because you didn't talk about it.
So when you say prearranged, does that mean I'm coming in talking about, I want to relieve the burden on my family and I want to sort of prearrange me? Or are you doing it, well, I have a loved one that is ill and I need to start looking at this? I mean, what does it really mean and entail?
Well, we can talk most certainly to the loved one, but because this is an insurance policy, the person that is going to carry that insurance policy, we do at the end have to talk to them to make sure everything is there that they want, and it requires their signature. But we can always talk to a family member beforehand. Basically, we would need to know, are they looking at cremation or a traditional burial? Those are the two hardest questions that people have to answer because they're so uncertain about cremation, and they're so used to just the traditional burials, especially those of us that are Catholics. The Catholic Church has, changed their stance on cremations. So basically, we would just need to have someone come in, let us know what your budget is, what you would like to have done. Everything can be custom made per that individual.
Well, my father passed away about 6 years ago, and we cremated him at his request. And I felt kind of, it was the first time I have experienced someone in my immediate family or even extended family that was cremated. Most of the time, there's always been a burial, and we would go in with a coffin, and we'd all be there and as a family. It was very interesting for me, but it meant a lot to my mom that she has an urn now of his, I guess, remains, and all the kids, me, my siblings, all got a little urn with a little bit of my father. And I have that urn on, I guess that's what it's called, little urn, baby urn. I have one of those now on my desk at home. So in many ways, I'm always there. And what it does is it makes me reflect on the good times, because there were so many good times, and it makes me reflect on those. So I guess that's one of the advantages, because you have something that you'll have with you. Is that right?
Yes. And it's a good point what you're talking about, having the mass and everybody having something. You can still have a cremation. You could do a visitation first with the
we did that.
Impact.
We did a visitation, and we did a rosary and all those things.
And then at a later time, the funeral home goes in and your loved ones, those cremains, and they do exactly what you said. Your family can purchase scatter boxes, which allows that loved one to be taken to a place that they loved and scatter their ashes there. Very
interesting.
And the funeral home, Joe Morales does such a wonderful job, he and his staff there. They take care of all of that. So even if you have your loved one's cremains at home and you decide, well, wait a minute, I like that idea. I want to take some of his ashes and go, call us and bring the ashes back in. The funeral home will take care of that for you. They know how to do it, and there's no problem.
What a beautiful thing. I think part of it is, and I hope, Blanca, you're still listening. I think part of it is people coping with death as part of life, that it's just part of the cycle, and really recognize, because those of us who definitely are very faith-based, that our loved one is not really maybe leaving their existing human body, but they're going to another wonderful place. And I think once you embrace that, it's like, Blanca, it's almost like a lot of your fears go away somehow.
Right, Gilbert. Let me just say this. Really, funerals and arrangements and they really are done for the family, for closure, for them to see that they're really celebrating the life of their loved one and the memories they left behind. And it's so important to provide that for the family. And I know some people decide they don't need anything but the truth of the matter is the family needs to have that celebration, that closure, that was a life well lived, and we're celebrating it. It's so important for the family to do that. I really believe that.
You're absolutely right.
I think closure is the key word.
Yes,
that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Funerals are for the living. That is for sure. And so I appreciate you saying that, Blanca. And there are so many choices these days that need to be made. And it's so much better to make these choices when you're in a lively mood, when things are happy, and you think, I'm thinking ahead to my future, because this is about peace of mind for your family once you pass away. We have so many families that come in, they have no clue what their loved one wanted. They don't have any money saved up. They may have an insurance policy. Insurance policies are for taking care of financial burdens whenever the person passes away. Like maybe you need to transfer titles or pay off a mortgage or things like that. So we offer insurances that are for the funeral service specifically, or even just a savings plan where you just pay whatever the funeral cost is every month and divide it into however many months you want to pay. So there's lots of options, but it's so good to do this for your family. You know, a lot of folks don't want to leave this burden on their children.
Well, Cindy, is that what as a counselor, is that generally your role?
Yes, it is. And actually,
Let's bring your mic closer to you. There you go.
Okay. So actually, I'm going to put a personal twist.
Do
this.
it.
So at one time, I was married to Christina's cousin, and he passed away young and unexpectedly. 30 years old. What did I know? You know,
right.
Thank God that Mrs. Morales and Christina was a young girl at the time, but they guided me through. They helped me because we didn't have this. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have this. A few years passed. My mother and got a policy for her and my dad. So when my dad and we were just like, oh, thanks, Mom, because it took care of everything. When they passed, we had to just pay, I think, for the obituary in the post at the time, which was a non-guaranteed item. So you do. And that was it. But she took care of us. And there were 6 of us, and we easily could have handled it. But what about for other families where there's just one child or 2, or there's nobody, and you leave that burden on the spouse that, you know, this easily could have been taken care of. So, and I'm going to fast forward 30 years from the time I lost my first husband. I lost my second husband. Now, did I learn anything from the first time or from my mother getting hers? No, because again, I wasn't thinking. Lost my second husband unexpectedly. Didn't have any kind of plans. Thank God, Joey sat with me. Sorry, Joe Morales sat with me.
Yeah.
And we went through it. But still, I look back, and my daughter and I look back, but we didn't expect it to happen. We were so devastated that we lost, you know, this man that we so dearly loved. We look back now and say, why did we do this? Why did we do that? Because even though I grew up at the funeral home, you are an emotional mess at that time, and you just can't think. You can't think. But after that happened, and when we got everything taken care of, I went in and I got my pre-needs because I didn't want to leave that burden on my daughter. And after I did that, I had my 4 siblings come in, and they've all got their pre-needs.
Wow.
Because we can't leave this.
Well, I want to hold on. I know we have, how many more calls do we have? We got like 3 or 4 already. Okay. Well, Blanca,
Yes.
I'm going to give you the last word before I go to the next call.
Yes.
What else do you got?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Christina and Cindy, for talking about this. This is a subject that people should know about and get ready for. Pre-arrangements is the way to go. So thank you very much. But also, Gilbert and Christina and Cindy, I want to invite y'all to be sponsors for my program. My program's coming up. We're getting ready to launch it in September. It's called Viva Magazine Live. And I want you two specifically to be a part of it.
We are there.
Okay.
Yes, I heard a
really
little
want
bit
y'all to
about
be-
it, and I'm so excited for
Yes.
you.
Blanca,
Yes.
you know what I want to do? I want, in like about a month of time, when it's really getting really close, I want to have you on the show as a whole episode.
Absolutely, and we're finalizing
Yes.
our first episode, and I want y'all to be a part of it. So
Oh,
talk to
awesome.
Daisy and Marisha. They're my team as well, and I love them to death, and they are excellent in the production work that they
Awesome.
do.
Yes, they are.
We're
Well,
excited.
Blanca, thank you for calling, and we wish
Thank
you
you.
Godspeed.
Thank you very much, Gilbert, and thank you for allowing me to speak on your radio show. And Christina and Cindy, y'all are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
all the work
Blanca.
that y'all
Thank you,
doing
friend.
in the community.
Amen.
Bye bye.
Amen. We have another caller, though, so let's hang on. We have, was it a Jerry? Jerry, are you there, Jerry? Oh, I think I lost him.
No, he's there.
Jerry, are you there?
Jerry? I'll transfer you.
Jerry. Hold on. Jerry, you there? All right, that's okay. Jerry will come back. Jerry, if you're there, just holler and we'll know you're there. Can you hear us, Jerry?
Yes.
All right, Jerry.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties, as they say. It must be that eclipse affecting the electromagnetic waves in the air. What do you got there, Jerry?
Well, I think you're right. I think everybody's just kind of ready for the eclipse here. Look, I just wanted to call in and say, obviously, happy Monday for everybody. We are getting some rain out there again, so be careful on the roads. Make sure you drive safe and sound. And I wanted to remind everybody, I know we keep on talking about this, but we still got some more elections coming up at the end of May.
Oh,
and I want to
go tell us all what we got, Jerry.
So we have a lot of special elections. One of them specifically is going to be my runoff for Harris County Constable Precinct 5. And I just wanted to remind everybody.
Well, go through the whole thing, brother. I want to give you some airtime here. So and you know what? Like anything else, my mom always said, if you don't vote, don't complain. So at the end of the day, Houston, you gotta vote, especially those that just haven't been voting in the past. So here is Jerry, and he's trying to really represent us as constable for Precinct 5, and he's asking for our vote. Go through the whole thing. When does registration end, and when does early voting start, and everything, Jerry?
Sure, absolutely. So the end of registration for the May elections is going to be April 29th of this month. And then we start early voting come May 20th to the 24th. And then you have your election day, May 28th.
Golly, it's right around the corner. Are you ready?
I am ready. I am excited. I'm looking forward to going out there and meeting people and shaking hands and all that good stuff.
Well, tell me the whole thing for a citizen that's not really aware, as none of us, frankly, really are. What does a constable do?
Sure. So the constables, again, we are a police agency, and we help out citizens. We answer calls for service. We do accident reports. We do everything and anything that you would think a police agency would do. We just do it in a smaller scale. Precinct 5 is going to be on the west side of town, so I would be catering to the west side of Houston.
And you've been there how long?
I've been there for 17 years now.
Oh my gosh, you're
Very long
probably
time.
you're probably one of the most qualified to run, maybe ever.
I'd like to think so. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, what are the three main things in the race?
So we have to make sure that I'm asking everybody to go do your homework and obviously look at all the candidates, right? But like myself, I tell you, you got to focus on things like community engagement. This is one of the things I'm going to definitely focus on. I want to make sure that we give back to the communities. The other thing is to make sure we have more police officers out on the streets to be able to answer your calls for service, to be there quicker and faster and be more efficient for everybody. So those are the two things I'm going to be focusing on. Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you this. I hear there's going to be a fundraiser for Christina Morales this Friday. And so you should come and raise, shake a few hands. Do you know where it's going to be?
I want to take a guess, but I don't want to make I'll let you guys tell me where it's at. How about that?
Well, if you were going to guess the funeral home, that's not correct. It's going to be at my house.
Thank you, Gilbert.
That's the Didi Garcia house.
Yes.
So for everyone out there, it is 4030 Durness Way, and we'd love to have you. And we're going to have all types of, I think, Mama Nifas is going to be sponsoring some of the food. We've got some people. Look, it's going to be a whole pachanga. But of course, we're there to raise money. But it's a pachanga.
It is.
Which means we want a lot of people there.
It's Tex-Mex and tequila.
Yeah.
And it's Phyllis Mandola, Nympha's daughter, who was so gracious, and her brother Roland, who donated the food. It's from El Tiempo, actually.
Oh, there we go. Well, boy, they good. Got it good.
Yes.
Well, Jerry, real quick, give us the one more minute. Where's your website and everything else?
Sure. Okay. My website's going to be jerryrodriguezforconstables.com. If you go there, you can see all the information as to who I am, what I've done, and what I intend to do, my certifications, and all everybody who's endorsed me so far. It's all there. And if you want, you can always give me a call directly on my cell phone. And that number is going to be 713-898-4043.
Say that one more time. 713
898 4043.
4043. Jerry, thank you, and we wish you great success.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you. So in addition to the election where Jerry will win, there is another election that not a lot of people know about, and it's on May 4th. Early voting
different
starts.
than the 28th.
Yes.
Oh my God, I don't even know about
I know,
it.
and it's really terrible that a lot of people don't know about this. This is part of the property tax bill that we passed in the legislature. We are able to elect 3 candidates out of the 9-member Harris County Appraisal District Board, and there are 13 candidates who are running, and the election is on
13 for 3 spots.
Correct.
Okay, keep going.
And so it is going to be on May 4th. It's just a normal election like we normally have, and this was part of the property tax bill that we would give an elected member on the board to participate in our appraisals, because a lot of people complain about the appraisals of their homes. So we want to make sure folks get out and vote for that too, because it's so important. There's going to be an early voting period starting at the end of April, and then the actual election is May 4th. On a Saturday.
Well, you know what? I know I'm not that smart or anything, but why is it on a different day than the regular runoff, which is May 28th?
Well, that would have made a lot of sense.
Because then people got to come out 2 times.
Yes. I'm sure there's a good explanation for that. I don't know. I just found out about this myself, and I shared it with my colleagues, and they're like, what? I totally forgot. We talked about it while we were passing this bill, along with thousands of other pieces of legislation and things that affect us financially. But yes, this is very important, because those 3 members are going to have.
Well, and as someone who has, we got lots of calls, and we're going to take them all. Please hang on. We're going to get you all. Do not hang up. But as someone who wakes up, and when I see my tax bill, I say, my God, just every year it just goes up like 20, 25%, just every year. You know what, citizens? You have the right to protest. And citizens, you should protest every time. You really need to. And I'm not here to promote anything, but at the end of the day, I use a third-party source called O'Connor and Associates. They do a great job. The bottom line is you got to protest it, because if not, before you know it, you're going to be taxed out of your home. And so I think it's something to really, really pay attention to. So this is a new position.
Correct.
Where you can elect these members to the appraisal districts.
That is correct.
Well, out of 13, is there anybody you want to say anything nice about? I mean, I know you like them all, but anybody,
yes.
1 or 2 you want to say, hey, I really think they'd be great? Because I'm embarrassed to say I don't know who's running.
Well, I'm excited that one of my constituents is running, and that's Melissa Noriega. She was a former.
Oh, I remember her.
Yes,
of course.
So
she's good people.
Yes, very good. So I'll be supporting her.
Council and everything.
Yes, very knowledgeable about our city, and so I think this would be a really, really good fit for her. So I'll be supporting.
You should tell her to call in.
Actually, I will.
Because again, the biggest problem she and those 12 other candidates are going to have is people knowing about it. Not only what it does, but to go out and go vote.
Absolutely.
You got anybody else you want to say something about?
You know what? I'm looking at these names, and I don't know these folks personally, so I don't. All I know is there are 13 of
Well,
them.
at the end of the day, if you're out there and you're running and you want to say something to Houston.
Maybe Cindy knows some
Cindy,
of them.
you see anybody, feel free to call in. I want to take the next caller here right now.
David Contreras.
Mr. David Contreras, the historian. David, are you there?
I'm here, Gilbert. How are you?
Good. Let me, producer, if you could take up the volume just a little bit. David, why don't you tell us what's going on in your world with the whole Latino museum and all these sorts of archives, rather, and what you're doing and everything that's going on?
Things are going great. With the support of the council members Castillo, Martinez, and Ramirez, and the support of State Representative Christina Morales and Senator Carol Alvarado, and the community support of Blanca Blanco, things are just going incredibly well. We've made a lot of progress with our digital archives. We're very excited. And I was calling in today because to invite the community, the general public, to a community forum that is being sponsored by council members Ramirez, Martinez, and Castillo, and that will be held on Saturday, April 13th at 10 a.m. at 5807 Navigation Boulevard. to get an update on the Hispanic History Research Center, which we have been talking about for 10 years and aggressively pursuing the last 4 years. And we're so excited that this has been announced. I think the tentative date to open this facility is going to be the beginning of 2026. And we're very excited about it. And we look forward to what the update going to be provided.
So I see here, I just now have it in front of me, April 13th from 10 to 11:30 on 5807 navigation.
Yes, sir. That's it.
Wonderful. Well, let me say this to everyone listening. Don't buy into all this stuff about, oh my goodness, critical race theory, that it's something bad. No, it's not. What it means is really start to record history for what really happened. And a lot of history is written by the victorious. And at the end of the day, sometimes they forget about us, the Latino and the African American community. So remember, it's not critical race theory, it's history. And
Yes.
we talk about American history, we talk about these things. How come we don't talk enough about the Black history, the Hispanic history, and all the contributions that we have made in this nation before the nation was even here?
That's right.
And you heard it here first.
Oh my God. Thank you, Gilbert.
You heard it here.
You're speaking my language. You know, I passed a historical bill through the State House, and this was to expand ethnic studies to our high school students. We do have these classes in our high schools, but they're only electives. I will continue to work to pass it through the Senate to expand ethnic studies to our high school students. And the data is already there. Stanford University did a study because they're doing it in California. Kids finish high school, kids are more engaged in school when they see history that looks like them. It's a reflection of them.
Yeah, when they see their history.
Correct.
Because so often the history forgets about us.
Correct.
Well, there you go. I'm so glad that you're doing that. I
Yes,
want to go back
thank
to
you so much, David. If he's still on the phone, he's amazing.
David, thank you for calling in. We got more callers. I want to come back to Miss Cindy too, but let's go back to who's our next caller. Do we have another caller there? We got another caller, I know.
You got Dominic, Jesse, or Jordan?
I'm going to take Dominique. Or is it Dominic or Dominique?
Dominic.
Dominic. Dominic, are you there? Anyone that's there, we'll take. Dominic, Jesse, Jordan.
Is Dominic?
Dominic, are you there?
Sometimes he'll hang out.
Okay, you go to the next. Let's go.
No, he's there.
Oh, Dominic, are you there?
Yes, Gil. I'm gonna make this quick because I know there's gonna be a lot of people calling in.
Go ahead, my friend.
Number one, our Lord Jesus Christ, when he got to Lazarus' tomb, cried. It is okay for men to cry when their loved one is lost. Number two, cost of funeral. There is something from Mathis, I think it needs to be discussed. Mathis, Texas, which is about 30 miles west of Corpus Christi. They divide the funeral cost into two zones. The family pays for the burial, that sort of part at first. A year later, they pay and put in the tombstone. That might be something for poor communities or poor families to look at. When somebody dies, you need to start thinking about having phone trees. You need to get the message out, but there's no way one person can do that. You're going to be so preoccupied with the funeral rate, but you can't have that cell phone going off every 5 minutes. And if necessary, especially when you first find out that the person died, cut the cell phone off and take some time for yourself. This is a shock. You need to work it off. And I really think that the cell phones have actually made funeral preparations worse because people are calling in constantly and not letting the person who's planning the funeral or the family planning the funeral grieve. I think we need to start thinking. I know we need to get this thing out, but I think we need to give the person, the loved one who died, a little bit of space. We don't have to call them every 5 minutes. Okay, with that, Gil, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let get back to you. Thank you for letting me talk.
Dominic, thank you very much for being on the line, and thank you for joining, and thank you for those words. Let's go to the thing that nobody wants to talk about. So how much does a funeral cost? I mean, when you talk about these plans and prearrange, and I don't necessarily mean I want a silver casket versus a wood casket.
Casket.
I'm just talking about just in general. How much is a normal funeral, and what should people expect? And what are some traps that that people should avoid? I mean, how do they know that they're getting a good on it? Now, obviously, y'all been around for almost 100 years, but tell me a bit about that. What are some of the things to avoid? Are you regulated? I mean, just go through the whole thing.
Yes, we are regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. All funeral homes are required to provide general price lists to families. And there's an effort also to make sure those price lists are available on websites so folks can review the information and look at the price information. One thing that doesn't work in our favor is having to itemize each individual price, because it becomes confusing for the family and it makes more choices for them. But we work with what we're required to do by federal law. And it's important that families do call around and ask for prices. Your caller earlier talked about poor families. Our funeral home has always helped everyone from wealthy families to poor families. We've always been a value funeral home and a historical one at that. But we try to provide services that fit within your budget. And they're one of the largest corporations for funeral services is here in Houston. It's called Service Corporation International. They are a worldwide company that provides funeral services, and their prices are going to be a little higher, but you're going to be connected to, a lot of funeral homes and a different type of staff. Ours is more of a family owned. And so we always say that when you come to us, you feel like you're talking to your family to get you through this most difficult time. But I'll let Cindy talk about what the price ranges are, because cremation and burials are very, very different in their price structure.
Go for it.
They are. Well, when you go into a funeral home, ask for the general price list. If they don't want to give you one or they put you off, that's your first flag. You need to leave.
Okay, so everyone has a general price list.
Yes.
And it's available.
Yes.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yes. It's just like, I don't know, maybe this is a bad way to compare, but going into a restaurant and you get a menu, right?
Yeah.
And you look, you see what the prices are. The same thing here. But like Christina said, we have packages, but just because we have packages listed doesn't mean you have to go there. You can add and subtract from whatever you want, whatever is going to fill your wishes, your loved one's wishes, or your wishes if you're setting up, your pre-needs. And one thing before I forget, a lot of times when I've talked to people, they're like, well, I want to go back to Mexico, or I want to go back to El Salvador. I don't have to worry about that. Well, yes, you do, because your loved ones can't put you, in the car and take you back. There is federal law, there's all sorts of governments that'll say, no, you can't do that. You have to have certain paperwork. You have to have this.
To transfer the body to the home country?
Yeah. So even if you don't want to have any services here, that's fine. But you do have to have transfer of origins. And we could do that to whatever country you want to. Whether
Is that right?
Yes.
So if my friends that are from El Salvador, someone passed away and they said, oh, I want to be buried next to my tia from, 1955, and it's in El Salvador, you can arrange that for them.
Absolutely. That's something that
What
we
a great
specialize
thing.
in since we opened, because we were always dealing with Spanish-speaking families, and many of them wanted to be returned to Mexico or Guatemala
Yeah.
or Honduras. We've done international shipping since we started.
That's great. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. But it's important that they know this, because then they don't want to talk about it because, okay, well, that's one way out of it. No, we want to help you. And if that's where your loved one wants to go back to their country, then we're going to help you do that. And Joe and his staff and all the guys there and girls are very great at getting this done.
Well, let me ask you this. If from soup to nuts, as they say, how soon, let's go back. There's sort of prearranged,
pre-needs.
And then there's emergency, and something happened to a loved one. if it's the latter and something happened to a loved one, how much time do they need, or should they to really plan a funeral? You know, is it something that you can do in a week? Is it something, I mean, I have no idea. Something that takes a month, and where does the body go, and all those sorts of things?
Well, if your loved one has passed, at the hospital or the home or a hospice, wherever, the funeral home is called. The funeral home goes and they pick up the body. But sometimes, depending on the condition or what's happened, the circumstances of the death, sometimes the body can't be moved until the medical examiner takes it. And the funeral home cannot do anything until they get that death certificate signed from the doctor. And sometimes the families get upset because, well, you've had the body, we can't do anything. But if that death certificate is not signed by the physician, the funeral home can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, but once that's signed, the family can even go in before and make arrangements, but nothing can proceed until they get that death
Well, that makes sense,
certificate.
because that means it's still somewhat of an open case,
Right.
right?
Right.
Maybe there's something they're investigating to make sure. So that makes sense.
Well, just to clarify, you can have viewing before the death certificate is signed, but in order to do the shipping to another country,
Or the burial.
or
Burial.
cremation
True.
or a
Yeah.
burial, you need to have a death certificate. Actually, you can still even do the burial, because the thought is, if you buried somebody and you find out that there are questions about their death, they can be exhumed, and you could still have another.
Very interesting.
But you
autopsy.
see what's happened now. So the loved one has passed away. They're making emotional decisions and spending lots of money because nobody wants to, bury mom or dad, in something that is inexpensive. Let's go for the, $18,000, $20,000 casket, because you're making emotional decisions. And that's what we're trying to avoid, because there are going to be so many other decisions that are going to be made at the time that your loved one has passed. So that's why Morales is so adamant about coming in and let's doing your pre-needs, because then most of the time everybody's healthy, or we're up in age and we're still healthy, but we don't want to leave this to our families. It's what we call a final gift of love to our children or to our spouse. Let's take care of this, because for all you don't want to be buried in that purple dress that your daughter may
So
love.
you can really pick what you want.
Yes,
You can say,
absolutely.
this is my favorite when I went to my prom or
Yes.
something, and I want to be buried on that. Or this is the type of casket I would like to have, or I want this heirloom that my dad gave me and I want it with me across. I mean, you can pick all those things.
Oh, and you're a huge music fan. I know that about you. And you can pick the music you want played at your funeral.
Can you really?
Oh, yes. Because
Yes.
these days, when I walk into the funeral home, I hear very different music than from when I was younger.
Yeah.
And we played the traditional Ave Maria
Yeah.
and things like that. People really are playing music that they love these days.
You can get a
Wow.
customized head. You can get a customized headliner. You get a customized liner for the casket.
You can?
Yes,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can.
And you can pick the prayers.
You
Oh,
can pick
yes.
the prayers. You can pick your prayer
Who's going to be
cards.
the reader?
You can do all of that, but all of that comes with pre-needs. Let's come in ahead of time and talk about this. This is what I want, and it's a very difficult decision. But the most difficult decision is burial or cremation. Once you take care of that, then everything else is easy.
And let's go through that. A typical cremation costs how much?
Well, if you're looking at a cremation with visitation, it's around $6,000.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's beginning to end.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, beginning to end at the funeral home. If we're going to go to mass, we'll take you to mass or a service there. And we'll take the body if you're going to bury the remains to the cemetery. But the plot, the headstone, has to be done by the funeral home. They can also buy the vault if they're having a casket, or a vault for the urn, because most cemeteries require that vault for the urn. They can get that through us. We have to accompany the deceased remains to the cemetery, and that's where our part ends.
So it's about $6,000.
About more or less, we can always
Understood.
custom- yeah.
Now, you said a couple of things. So does that mean there's a place where there's a bunch of urns?
That's not included in the $6,000
but there is a place where they can be, because
Yes.
like we have it at my house, my mom's house.
Right. So you can keep it at home. You can scatter the ashes. There's even jewelry. I have jewelry with my sister's ashes.
No kidding.
Yes, it's
How beautiful.
It is absolutely
Stones.
beautiful.
Stones, and
Stones, which are
trees
beautiful. Yeah, you can. There's so many options these days. You can even send somebody into outer space, a little bit of their cremains, And you can make diamonds from cremated remains.
Come on.
Yes, I mean it's expensive.
Yeah.
But you would have a piece of jewelry
Well,
that
I'm just got like
was
I got
made
like
from your
so
loved
many
one.
questions. but before we go to the next, who's our next caller? Jesse, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Hit me, Jess.
First of all, thank you, Gilbert, for having me on your show. I'm listening and watching you live on YouTube right now.
All right.
So I can see you on my big screen TV. And
Am I having a good hair day?
yes, you are. Very good.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And congratulations for Christina for this past Saturday for marching with us at the Sunshine Shabbos Parade.
Thank you, Jesse.
And Cindy for being with us this past Sunday at the Knights of Columbus Hall, representing Morales and donating gift cards for our Loteria benefit. So thank y'all for being involved in the community. And the other thing, I just want to thank the Morales family again for their school supply giveaway. And I just want to remind you, back in the day, Gilbert, when you purchased a funeral, you used to receive a free radio announcement on the radio station for first Spanish language radio station, KLVL. So everybody knew about your funeral. And anyway,
What a nice
and the
thing.
last thing I was going to mention, asking Christina and Cindy, I hear there's some state grants for some people with violent death.
Yes, there is. I'm sorry, I'm losing the name of the grant, but yes, if your loved one was a victim of a crime, there is crime victims compensation.
No kidding.
Yes.
And you and
Is it from the government? Or,
yeah, it's from the state of Texas.
Okay.
And this is a pool of money that is from restitution paid by criminals. And so they give grants to folks who have lost a loved one if they were a victim
Right.
of a crime.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
Jesse, thank you for bringing that up. That's
Yes.
a good point. I
It really
completely
is.
forgot about that. But
Same.
yes.
Well, Jeff, we got a couple more callers. What else you got, pal?
That's it. Thank you very much and keep up the good work.
And
Thank
thank you
you,
for all
Jesse.
you do, Jess. Let's go to the next caller, and then I want to come back to you, to Cindy for a minute.
Okay, let me help you.
Go ahead. Who do we got? I don't see the board. I got Jordan. Jordan, are you there? Jordan.
Yes.
What do you
hi.
got there, Jordan? You're with me. A tip from Gilbert with Morales Funeral Home, and we're talking about the thing that people don't always talk about, but they need to, which is about burying a loved one and sort of taking care of all of those details. What do you got for us?
Yes, I had a question for the Morales Funeral Home. Nowadays a lot of people, they use social media, and when they're caught in between, like unfortunate circumstances, everybody has a GoFundMe page. So I was wondering, how often do you guys see people come in with GoFundMe accounts, or they have money in a GoFundMe account, and how does that get transferred over?
That's a great
one.
Yeah, that is a great question. And actually, we've researched ways to make that easier for the family, because at one time GoFundMe fees were really, really high, but now it's a great option. And GoFundMe is set up by the family, and they receive the money, and then they pay us. So we don't automatically receive money, or I don't think any funeral home does, unless the funeral home set up the GoFundMe account. But
So in other words, that is just a vehicle for money to be donated, and then the family can do whatever it wants with that, and typically they will then pay the funeral home
correct.
okay, I got it.
Right. So, it's very personal for each family. When they come in, we don't give out information about how much the funeral cost or
Right.
anything like that. It's up to them to give out that information. And if and when they do, and they know they want to raise X amount of dollars, then they can ask for donations, and then they can collect those donations and then pay us.
Very good. Jordan, thank you very much for that question.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So let's go back, Cindy. So let's go back to the hard questions. So let's pretend I'm me, because I am me. And let's pretend I have 4 children, and I don't want to be a burden to them. And I'm of good health. I'm 60, because that's where I'm at in my life. And I think, well, my lifespan is X. I don't know what it is today. Let's say it's 75 or 80 years old. What's my first step? Walk me through. What do I need to do to start putting money aside, and what are the things, and how much would it cost if I wanted to really have, I don't know what the right word is, a average nice funeral, and I didn't want my family to have to pay for it. What would I need to do?
Okay, so you give me a call and we meet somewhere either at Morales or your choice of whatever convenient for you.
Okay.
And we'll sit down there and we'll talk. You're going to tell me what you want, whether
Okay.
it's traditional burial or a cremation. So we'll go
Traditional. So keep going.
traditional. Okay, so you want to do the traditional. Okay, so then I'll show you. Look, this Gilbert, these are the caskets. You know, which one of these caskets do you like? And we'll go through them all and and tell you. And the top of the line is just as good as the middle of the line. You know, it's whatever your budget can afford. It's whatever you want to spend. Okay. So then if you want to have a mass, do you want to have a viewing? Do you want to do
Well, how much? What's the range of caskets cost?
anywhere
From
from
$1,000. I mean,
30,000?
Yeah,
If you're
you
getting
could.
a custom made one.
Yeah, you could. We have a casket available to us that is the same one JFK was buried in, so we can order our caskets.
But a
from
normal
anywhere.
average.
Is, I would say, $1,500 to $2,000.
And they're
Okay.
very nice. They're
Yes.
very
Yeah.
nice.
So
Yes.
let's say that. So keep going. So the next one is the service.
It's a service, right? And the question is, do you want to have a mass on the next day, or do you? Most time now it's traditional. Back in the old days, it was a 3-day. It was the
Yeah.
wake, it was the rosary, and it was the burial. But now things have changed, and sometimes the family does it all in one day. And it's very hard on the family, but they have that option, or you could do it 2 days. It just depends on it's it could be $500 or $600 depending if you're going to have 2 days or both. But that's what I'm saying. It's not I guess it is kind of cafeteria style. Choose what you want.
Right.
Are you going to go with this salad or with this salad, and we'll make it happen for you. And we're going to, when we get back, you tell me everything you want. Okay, whatever your wishes are, we're going to go through that. Okay, and then at the end I'll ask you questions, and if you're at the right age, 45 to 60, 65 is a good age to come in and let's talk about pre-needs. You're healthy. So I do the application and I check no to the questions that they're asking, that you're all in good health and everything. So then it's going to come back and it says, this is 11,000 right here, what this bid is, but it could be lower than this or higher.
So let's go with it. So 11,000 for a funeral, sort of, not the high, not for famous people or something but that's a good funeral,
Right.
a loving funeral. So then what happens?
Well, then I'll ask you, how do you want to see this? And I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my phone so I can get to the rate. So I'll ask you, do you want to do a 3-year payout, and they would take out of your account monthly. Okay.
So I'm
3 years.
so I'm prepaying it.
You prepay it every month.
I
okay?
see.
You can choose 3 years, you can choose 5 years, you can choose 8 years, or you can choose 10 years to pay this out. Now, if you are healthy, like it says, and you come, like you're saying, you come back with, okay, you get full benefit, which means that it doesn't matter which one of these options you choose under full benefit. You sign the contract, make the payment. God forbid anything happens to you after the first day, after the first payment, your funeral is covered. Your family doesn't have to pay anything.
But it's not an insurance policy because it's a prepaid savings account or something.
It is an insurance policy, and it's backed by Security National
Yes,
Insurance that has
it is
been
insurance.
over almost 7 decades.
So does that mean if I were to sign an $11,000 funeral cost package, and if I accidentally died 2 days from now, the whole thing would be covered?
It's just like a normal insurance policy, and there's always a 2-year waiting period on any insurance policy that you buy. So after 2 years, it is going to pay 100% of it. But in the first 2 years, it's called a graded death benefit. So it pays you like
Some percentage of it.
50%.
I see.
So you will get more out of it, but you do have to answer some health questions. And if your health is not 100% or you can't answer all those health questions, then the graded benefit goes down.
I totally get it.
because we would have every sick
Yeah, yeah,
person
yeah.
come and sign up and then get.
I totally get it.
Yeah,
Somebody
so,
has. I
right.
totally get it. We have another caller. I totally get it. What was that other name? Alejandro. Are you there, Alejandro?
Hello, Gilbert. Good morning.
How are you? You're with me. A tip from Gilbert with the Morales Funeral Home. What do you got?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Well, this may sound a bit macabre, but I've always found wakes and funerals very fascinating.
Hold on a
Of
second.
course, it's-
You just said this might sound what? I need a
Macabre.
I need a dictionary. What does that mean?
Macabre. Macabre is kind of curious about death.
Oh,
related to death.
okay.
You never saw the Addams Family?
I mean, I have it. I don't remember that word. Okay, go ahead. Hit me.
Yeah, so along the lines of wakes and funerals, I've always found them very interesting. Of course, it's sad to see that someone has passed away, but it's always very interesting to see how some cultures or even families celebrate a person's life. I know, for example, that whenever I pass away, which hopefully isn't not so many years from now, I would like to have mariachis on my funeral because I've always found mariachi music, beautiful and whatnot. But I guess my question to you all is: have you had any unique requests that you'd like to talk about? How maybe certain requirements for the funeral or music or even pranks.
Even like an unusual. What's the most unusual?
One unusual service we had, the family built their own casket, and it was a little awkward because we couldn't just pick it up, like a normal casket.
Yeah.
And it was really beautiful though, because it was just this beautiful gesture on behalf of one of the family members to build the casket. We had a person who was a truck driver, and so we had an 18-wheeler with a long flatbed in the back, and all of his friends lifted him up, and the casket was in the center of this flatbed.
Wow.
And it was just amazing. We've had bikers where it looked like 200 bikes were following the hearse. We have horse and carriage. You can really, really personalize a service, and we've had many things like that. And even the smallest thing, I just remember I cried with them, the two daughters of a woman who passed. They said, my mom was so afraid of the dark, and before we close the casket, I'm going to put a flashlight in the casket with her.
Wow.
And it just touched
Oh, gosh.
my heart, because I know they were thinking about their mom being in that casket, and so yeah, I mean,
Very interesting.
it is this is important to do. And maybe she told them some, at some time, put a flashlight with me or whatever that was, but it was the comfort, pictures and things like that.
I'm just like, what a cry, just thinking about it.
Beautiful gesture. Yes.
Alejandro, what else do you got, pal?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for sharing, and love listening to the show.
Thank you for calling in. So real quick, so then I've got my $11,000 plan, and I'm paying my money, etc. Do I pick the plot? And is that part of it?
No, you have to go to your cemetery of choice to do that. We'll just take care of you from the time that you pass. We'll take the body and bring the body to the funeral home, take care of dressing and getting the body ready. Then we'll help the family plan the funeral, the viewing, whatever they want to do. And we will take the family and the body to the cemetery of choice. And we will stay with them. But the plot has to be bought by the family. It's a separate expense, and so is the headstone. The vault or for the casket or the vault for the urn can also be purchased through Morales.
I see.
You don't have to get that from the funeral home. But, going back to what you said, I couldn't get my rate calculator up. But some of these monthly payments, depending on your age and your health, some of them can be as low as $80 a month. Some as high as $200 a month per person, depending on what you want. But again, think about today. The important thing about doing this now with your pre-needs is because once you sign that contract, your funeral prices are frozen. Those are the guaranteed items, such as the casket, such as the service from the funeral home, their services. Those are frozen. So like my parents, they got theirs. I think my dad died like 8 years later or something. Well, better than that, my brother-in-law and my sister bought one at the same time. And that was like in the about 1999 or something like that. They just checked the other day, and their funeral prices have gone up about $14,000.
Wow.
In value. But, and by the way, they transferred their policy over to Morales. So, but Morales will honor what their original contract said. Whatever casket they picked out, they can get that. So that is the important thing about doing a pre-needs now, because you know what? That's one thing we can't escape. We can escape taxes, or some people try. Death is one thing you're not going to escape. So help your family, help them remember you in a loving gesture that you took care of this. Go ahead of time so you can tell them, don't bury me in that dark suit. I want to be buried in a Wayavetta. I want to be buried in my Jimmy Buffett shirt,
Wow. Well, we have 1 minute. Let me just say this. Houston, make sure you vote. We've got the at the late May, we have the election for some of these runoffs. We have the appraisal district vote on April the
May 4th.
I'm sorry.
It's a Saturday, May 4th.
May 4th. We've got the event at my house
Yes.
for Christina Morales, 4030 Durness Way. Please come. And I think the most important takeaway I have is dealing with these issues. It's better to do it now, while you're of good mind and you're not emotional, and while you can really be thoughtful, because you don't want it to just happen and then all of a sudden you're rushing. So I think it's a great thing to get a pre-needs, is that what it's called? Consultation with Cindy, and she can sort of go through this. You have nothing to lose, and you know what? You have everything to gain. This is Gilbert Garcia of A Tip from Gilbert saying, we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Great job.
This is Gilbert Andrew Garcia. Listen to my radio show, A Tip from Gilbert. Talk, inspiration, and prayer every Monday from 11 a.m. till noon on Houston's gospel leader, KWWJ. 1360 AM and streaming live on kwwj.org. Listen on the legendary KYOK 1140 AM and streaming live on kyokradio.org. KCOH 1230 AM, The Source. On San Geek Radio 95.1 FM 1460 AM. And Aliento Radio 101.7 FM and 1540 AM. Call in at 832-570-8075 and follow me on social media. See you then.